I'm gonna do the stupid move. I'm just gonna say that's right. That's right. I'm huffing all the fucking copium, the hopium, the nopium, whatever's out there. Basically, whatever I can get my hands on, I'm fucking huffing it all. Because I'm going to bet and say that Cloud9 wins this. In which case, right, not only will it be pure banter, because if anyone knows, Gen.G, for some bizarre reason, is like notoriously bad in best of 5 series. But not only is Gen.G like questionable in best of 5 series, but even better, right, all the criticism of Perkz this year, all the 11 million X memes, all the people like, well, he didn't win every game this year, did he? Like, all the people like that. Can you even imagine? How are they going to keep watching League of Legends if Perkz just makes semi-finals or better 4 years in a row from 2 different roles and in 2 different continents? Like, at that point in time, it's going to be, listen, you can always hate on someone. I've basically made a whole career out of hating on Reckless, TSM. But here's the thing, you got to be creative, boys. You got to come with a fresh angle. I don't know what angle you're going to have left if in this universe Cloud9 actually wins this series, which I'm not saying is going to happen. I'm saying I'm picking it because of the odds. If that happens, everyone just has to shut, at least for a week, everyone just has to shut the fuck up. Perkz can basically at that point in time just post a picture of his fucking ass cheeks. Like, there's nothing any he can do. Like, it's just over at that point. How's anyone, by the way, and how is anyone ever going to trash talk him ever again? Like, he would have the most god-tier Twitter clout status of all time. He already has a pretty good one, by the way. Like, I like that tweet he made too. I think it was Cadril or something, where Cadril was making some comment about like EU getting out of groups, and he was basically made some comment that was sort of like, I am EU. It's like, all right, fucking hell. I mean, you are, but, I can't lie, it's pretty gangster. So, okay, let's talk about this series now. Foxtrot, where are we starting on this one? Like, for example, obviously, they're not an LEC team. Listen, I will say, like, half the players are LEC players, and they got Mythy as a coach. So, like, there's a reason you can be biased if you want. Do you actually think Cloud9 can win this series?
Yeah, I think they can win. I think Gen.G is probably one of the weaker teams coming into quarters, alongside Mad Lions and Cloud9. I think if you're looking to take someone down and make a run into the semis, Gen.G is probably your best bet, honestly. And what we've seen out of Cloud9, it's nothing amazing, but I think they can pull it together. Yeah, why not? Like, I definitely don't think it's like an insurmountable hill for you to go up against Gen.G. And as you say, not the greatest in best of 5s. I do have that historically playing against them, which I'm sure we'll hear that narrative plenty of times on the Riot broadcast. I just want to see NA like shit on kids. I just do. I think it's good banter. So yeah, I'm all on the Cloud9 hype train as well.
Where are you at, Rich?
I mean, I think Gen.G will win. I think if I had to bet, I would say 3-1 Gen.G. But I do agree that I don't think they're like that good. I don't see it as like a David versus Goliath or something like that. Like to be honest, in the context of Worlds, I think they're 2 not great teams, and I think Gen.G is a little bit better than Cloud9. I think that where I would be worried for Cloud9 is sort of alluding to something I said before, which is I kind of expect this will be a series where Ruler and Life come to life, as it were. I think they'll probably be able to exert themselves pretty heavily over the series. I think up until this point, as I said, I think this World has definitely just been basically about mid-jungle, if not just topside in general. But if the series does become about, Blabber going to have to help out bot in any kind of sort of reactionary way, I think the series is completely doomed, because I think that Gen.G do have a huge advantage in bot lane. I think when it comes to BDD, I think he's played well during the groups, and obviously I think he's a good player. I don't see it as, a big mid diff or something like that, though, and that's not just, off the back of some decent performances from Perkz or something. I think that Perkz plays to the level of his opponents quite a lot, and I expect that Perkz will have like a pretty good series. So I actually think mid will probably be somewhat of a wash. So yeah, I think that this series is more, I feel like C9 should try and play around Perkz if they can. I think the bot side should try and play sort of more conservatively. And I think if you can give Perkz a position where he gets priority and he gets to dictate as and where skirmishes take place, then that's C9's best window to win for sure. Like, if Perkz is able to be put in a position where he's making decisions about what fights C9 can and can't take, that is for sure their win condition, in my opinion. I think if it becomes about bot lane, then Gen.G will probably 3-0. And if I was Gen.G, I would definitely be game planning to play around bot, because I think they have a huge advantage there.
Even though I did literally just bet on Cloud9, metaphorically, I actually have certain rules as to how I make predictions in the sense of if I'm actually saying who's going to win. Like, if people don't know, what I always do, which is in line with the sponsor, I just bet based on the odds. Like, if I think the odds are like way too generous, I pick that. Like, basically, if people don't know, I did a whole bunch of bets of Cloud9 and Rogue to beat actually the big favourites in their group, because every time I was getting fucking like 5 and 6 odds and stuff. So if people don't know how odds work, like, I mean, if you write 1 out of 5 times, like, I can actually do that a whole bunch, and it turned out I was actually right like 2 times, so in the end it would have actually been like a plus. It would be like net positive at the end, even though I didn't win most of the bets. That's how betting works. I know I've just blown people's minds there, but the point I was going to make is this: one of my rules when I'm an analyst, like when I work in CSGO and I'm having to pick the teams, is one thing I don't do is, even if I actually think like the win conditions are there, like you could win, there's factors that could, I always do look at the players, and if I don't trust certain players, I never bet on them. So, like, for example, one of the reasons generally, I've alluded to them earlier, obviously won't talk about much because I'm not in the round of 8. One of the reasons I've never really gone all in on this TL lineup, who I do think have some fabulous pieces and some real potential, is because I know at some point I can actually rely that Tactical will do one of those really mental ints where he just jumps into the middle of a fight and gets instantly deleted. And he's my fucking ADC. So my problem is this. People probably know where I'm going with this one. I can't trust Blabber. Not in 5 games. Like, listen, he will definitely prove me wrong for a game or two. He might even have a game in this series where he just goes absolutely nuts and carries the whole thing from beginning to end and looks amazing. But I tell you what, after seeing enough of it, I don't trust this guy. I'm sorry, I just don't. And I want to tie this actually into the discussion we were having before Foxtrot and see where people want to go here. Because when you come up with that whole intangibles thing, one, in sports culture, it definitely is thrown out way too much. And classically, as you say, it's usually used as like an excuse as to why like an old great player who isn't good now should be allowed to be on like one of the best teams, whereas really, like, we're speculating. We don't really know if that guy had anything in the locker room for all we know. He doesn't give a fuck and he's just cashing out for his last year. Could be, right? The problem is, though, I do think I understand why the term exists, because actually players like Perkz, and I'll go the other way around, I'll take someone like, I would say, the problem is when I say choker, it's such a harsh term, but I would say historically, I mean, you could maybe put Odoan there here. If you take another rogue player, Larsen's a classic one, of course. If you want to take people that are called chokers, right? In my opinion, clutch and choke, which typically do get thrown around too much. If you really do find a player, though, who like embodies that, it's just who they become in the big moment. That's actually way more reliable than you'd expect. Because I've known tons of analysts. I've done this myself in CSGO. It's like I looked at the game and I was like, okay, he did play badly in this game. But the next time they play, but the win conditions are there again. Like, actually, if that was just a one bad game, this time he is the favourite and they should win in this way and they've got the right player. I'll tell you what, that will betray you, because what you're sort of doing there is you're doing it like a scientist. Like, if this was just X random game played in totally, like sterile conditions, they should win. But the problem is we know pressure is a real thing. It's not literally, it's, metaphorically a real thing. But like, basically it is going to be the case for people, except for rare examples like Foxtrot said. Like, there are some players who just seem impervious to it. And I'll tell you what, as mad as it is, that trend of like the guy who's clutch seems to continually come through in the clutch, and the guy who chokes, if anything, even chokes too often. Even you just think, can't you just trip over and bloody have a good game once? Like that, those somehow do hold. I know it's crazy because it's kind of a bit woo-woo, but I have to say, from all my years in esports, you are asking for a fucking bad time if you bet against the guys who somehow just always come through, no matter what the game situation looks like. And for me, actually, Mad Lions and Rogue are the two ends of this spectrum at the moment. Like, they're great examples, all Perkz. So, gentlemen, do you want to talk about this topic a little bit? What about this, Rich? Do you have any thoughts on that? Obviously, Fox got a little bit earlier.
I mean, I think on the Mad Rogue thing is like a classic example in the sense that, and I remember saying previously that I wasn't necessarily sure that Rogue were chokers or not, in the sense that I felt like Larsen, for example, sometimes actually just did all the things that he normally does. It's just that a lot of those things are actually really bad, and that he doesn't get punished until it comes playoff stage, and better mid laners basically exploit him. Like, this guy still has no idea how to play when he's not in his own lane. But I also think that there is definitely an element of, I don't know if I'd call it choke or whatever, but there's an element of unreliability for sure. And I think this comes down to a tweet actually that Kaiser made, where I think it was after a regular season game where they were 7k gold down to Rogue or something. He said, 7k gold down to Rogue is my comfort zone. But I actually would like inverse that tweet and say 7k gold up is Rogue's uncomfortable zone.
Right.
That's like how I kind of see it. And I think while Mad are really good at, as you say, like going into mid game, maybe they make 7 out of 8 decisions correctly. A team like Rogue is making like 3 out of 8 decisions correctly. And whether you want to call it choke or apply any other adjective to it, doesn't really matter. I think the umbrella term I would use is reliability. And obviously reliability is more important, obviously, the higher the stakes get. And I think if you're a really good team with really good players, especially, mechanically, or have like pretty good team fighting, then you can still do all these things and win. For example, if Rogue are playing a regular season game and they're playing against a bottom half of the table team, they might still make these decisions and win. Just because they're better at the game. And that's why I rather use the term unreliability than choking, just because I'm genuinely not sure to what extent they crumble under the pressure, or to what extent over a series, whether it be an LEC playoffs or at Worlds or whatever, that actually they're just not that good at the key macro elements that mean that would make them a good team, right? But again, I think Mad are the opposite. I think Mad are macro experts, but I'm more sure about how good Mad's mental is than I am sure about how bad Rogue's mental is. Okay. So I just put it under the banner of unreliability. But yeah, I think for sure that's obviously like a very real thing. And as Foxdrop said, I wouldn't like always call these things as like intangibles or whatever. When it's someone like Perkz, it's obviously very obvious and very real that this guy brings way more than just his pure ability to the game. That if you don't believe that at this point, you're a moron. I also find it kind of annoying and, for lack of a better word, triggering when people try and offer up other suggestions like Caps as the Western GOAT and stuff like if you think it's even close, then we can't talk about it. Like it to me, it's like the gap now is so astronomical that it's almost like the gap that most people think Faker has over like the next best player, right? It's like, no, it to me, yeah, it's there's so much that an individual can offer to a team beyond just their skill on the Rift.
Put it this way, I used to basically, because obviously I was a big Froggen fan, and back in the old school days, the real rivalry was Expecke Froggen, right? That was the two contrasts, because the playing styles are so different. The team setups are always so different, because Expecke always had loads of really good teammates, and then Froggen famously would be like, he had some all right ones, and some that were a little bit dodgy, and so it was like the classic thing of like, oh, if my guy had the proper teammates, he'd beat your guy. But what I actually realised over time, and this is something I think applies to Perkz definitely, is people like Caps, you might play with him if he's at his absolute best. You want to play with a good player, right? People like Perkz and Expecke, you want to play with at any time, because they just have some mad charisma that almost like exudes out of the server. And like, not only are people fans of them, but players just want to be on these people's teams. Like, players have a sense from playing them as well and watching that, like, I'm just going to win somehow. I don't know how, but if I'm on this guy's team, we will just win. Like, and we'll win in scenarios where it's unlikely or where he's maybe not even in good form. Like, that is it. That's the reason I even made this point. That's why the whole like $11 million meme is actually stupid, because not only did you buy someone who basically would only be sold at that kind of price because they're like worth their weight in gold, so you have to overpay. If you know anything about sports, you always overpay for the best player, because why the fuck would I let the best player go unless you pay me like a king's ransom? That's why in football they keep breaking the records for the best striker all the time, because the whole point is he is so absurdly good. It's not a normal market, is there? There's like two people in the market and you make them pay the absolute maximum amount, or you keep him. That's how you get your value. There's never going to be, like, you can't really take the money you got from that guy and then buy the next best player. Like, it doesn't work. He's not going to be as good. And then the other thing as well for me is it's the implied value of buying Perkz. Like, not only is there the meme of like he can poach everyone, by the way, that's real. He's like the best GM to ever play fucking League of Legends. But secondly, the other factor is like people just want to be on your team now. People just want to be on that guy's team. That is a mad attractive factor. Like, what you'll get out of that is way more than you'll ever see in the server. And you'll, by the way, even when they do those like documentaries, they're never going to really capture like the things that make that guy so like iconic, or people just like, that's why my term for it is he's just like a talisman, dude. Like, everywhere he goes, he can't help but fucking succeed. I don't think people have really looked at the numbers. Like, pick out his bad games and all I'll do is hit you with stats like never failed to qualify for Worlds, make it like, again, like 4 years straight in the playoffs. Like, mate, the numbers are ridiculous. All those game 4 stats, like this guy, it's beyond a joke. And then we just added in, remember, everyone's telling us, by the way, accurately, probably the worst split of his career, right? The worst split of his career involves still making it to Worlds and then getting out of the most impossible group ever assembled, probably the best like underdog group escape in the history of the tournament. Like, if that's the guy's fucking bad split, well, God forbid he ever gets good again, TSM fans. What the fuck are you going to do? You didn't even make it to Worlds. How are you still talking shit now? How are you still talking? I get it. Listen, everyone can talk shit, but like, you do look a bit silly at this point if you're still hating on Perkz. Like, come on, man. What more does he have to do? What more does he have to do? What do you think, Fox?
Drag NA into quarterfinals, then yeah. I mean, you've got to be doing something right. It's fair enough in the regular season, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
He didn't really play that well, and this is the thing is like how in esports, so it's probably like this in like all facets of life, but in esports especially, everything's like either one way or another. It's all black and white. There's no middle ground. So when Perkz is popping off, it's like, how could you even doubt Perkz, man? This is the best player in the history of the West that we've ever produced. Of course, like he's amazing. He's worth every penny, and then he plays crap. It's like, why would you even waste all that money on someone like Perkz? He obviously doesn't care. He's just going there to retire. There's no middle ground. And so like the whole split was between like Perkz is completely overrated, not worth it, and Perkz is amazing, and this is why you buy him. And now we're getting to the point where, you know, I don't think you buy Perkz to win NA. Like, Cloud9 can do that anyway, or they can try to do that anyway. You know, you don't need Perkz to do that. But if you want to make a dent in the international tournaments, you know, or you know, once you get into Worlds, or if you can make it to MSI, that's where you want a player like Perkz in your team. And he's shown you why, exactly why in this World Championship, dragging his team kicking and screaming over into the quarterfinals. And as Rich said as well, if there is some kind of hope for Cloud9 in the quarters against Gen.G, then I think a lot of it obviously comes down to Perkz and his ability to, even just the way you describe it, Rich, is like so bang on, because if he can dictate things, if he can decide the skirmishes, if he can control the game, then Cloud9 stand a chance. A lot of that starts in the draft, and without Larky, that's more like, you know, detailed stuff. But either way, like, it's about him. You know, it's about Perkz. It's on him to really kind of control that game in that sense. And that's why you spend $11 million, because and fair play, honestly, to Jack and like the Cloud9 crew, who've had enough, I guess, of just winning NA. They actually want to do a little bit more, and so they open the wallet, get a player like Perkz, and it's the best chance of doing it.
You know, the funniest...
No, by the way, I can confirm, absolutely, Jack is absolutely already was happy with the decision, but now this is, like you say, this is why he actually got him, by the way. You've phrased it exactly how you said it. He didn't get him to just win LCS. As you say, he's done that before, but the problem is, who the fuck wants to win LCS, then go to Worlds and go, we're irrelevant. Like, he wanted this, where you feel like you've at least got, in America, they say, you want to have a sweat. You at least want to, like, feel like there's a chance in the game, like there's something to give you some tension. Not like those matches in all the past Worlds, where it's like, well, obviously going to lose to this team, like, there's no chance. Yeah, go on, Rich. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say the funniest thing about the Perkz is bad thing. And like, to be honest, like during the split or whatever, or when people were giving their opinions on was he worth X, is he worth Y, like was it a bad decision? Like I didn't pay too much credence for it, and I didn't even necessarily think that the questions were like unjustified. Like I would disagree, but I thought certain performances warranted asking questions. Sure, absolutely. The weirdest thing about it was the timing of like that super popular upvoted thread that got like
the accountability one or whatever.
Yeah, it was just such bizarre timing, because Cloud9 had made playoffs. They were still in playoffs, and there was still like a very real possibility that they were going to make Worlds. Like, it was just so weird. And it was like, so up until this point, let me get this straight. In the first split, he just wins, right? And in the second split, he's probably going to secure qualification for Worlds, and then we don't know what will happen. Obviously, they won't go into Worlds as a favorite or something. They might end up in the group of death, which they did, which he then gets out of. It's like, why do people do this to themselves? Like, the timing of it was so stupid. This guy was asking for like a divine intervention to like make him look like a fool. It was just so bizarre, and I just couldn't get enough of it when all the people just immediately started bandwagoning on this opinion, like this was some geniusly like well put together, succinct opinion on the reality of Perkz in his career. And it's like, there's about a 2% chance you ever get vindicated for this. Like, it was just bizarre. And then like a week later, he put in like some insane 1v9 playoff performance that put them in position to qualify for the next series. Like, I don't know, that will go down. That guy is sat there in some basement in deep regret.
Of course. He's probably the one just now like, yeah, but They're still only going to make quarters. Remember, you can never beat the hater. Like, the hater just fucking just uses like a eraser on his whiteboard, just writes a new thing and like, now there's a new reason I hate you. No, the thing is, here's another factor. This is another reason why Perkz is a win condition. Because everyone loves to throw the term around constantly, even though it's just such a fucking ephemeral concept of confidence. You got to be confident. People say it as though you can all just gather together in a room and hypnotize each other and go, we are now confident. We will win. The problem they don't realise, I've made this point on so many shows, but fans always forget it because obviously we don't see the scrims, is scrims are probably the worst fucking thing that could happen to Western teams at Worlds. Because what happens is, you fly to Korea, maybe you've won your region, you've been watching the games, you maybe even, like the rest of us, been watching LCK VODs going, they're not actually that good this year, I think we could beat them. And then what happens is, you arrive, you play 2 weeks of scrims, in which usually all Asian players, except for like, I don't know, fucking Taiwan or whatever, just absolutely dumpster you for 2 straight weeks. I told people, I've even heard stories where, first of all, back in the day, if you just lost too many times at the beginning, the top Asian teams just go, we're not even scrimming you anymore, it's a waste of our fucking time. But even the ones they didn't, like for example, say it's one of those ones like T1 where now they're sort of westernized and they have some sort of relationship with like American companies and stuff, right? They might just be told, like, just out, like, please play with our friends at 100 Thieves for another week. Then they'll start doing stuff, no joke, like purposely picking the wrong side of a mid lane matchup just to show you, like, you actually psychologically have no chance against me, or like, I'm going to actually purposely counter pick top lane and then shit all over your star top laner and show you, like, don't even waste my time in these scrims. So by the time you come to the real group stage games, every Western fan's like, oh boy, I can't wait to see if 100 Thieves can win. And it's like, motherfucker, that battle was lost 2 weeks ago. Like, this guy doesn't even think he can win this game. In fact, he might even be going in, no joke, with a mindset of like, I'm just going to try not to get showed up. Like, I'm just going to try, like, if they get me early, I'll play safe. Like, if I have to, I flash everything. Like, some of them will, no joke, be going in like that. Like, at least I don't want to look like a fool. Here's the difference. Perkz not only doesn't have that. In fact, if you look at his whole career, there was that story from Season 9 Worlds where supposedly G2 was one of the teams that got dumpstered by all the Korean teams. But they still, when they played on stage, you would never have believed it. As you said, Fox, they play like casual. They always look loose. Even when they're down, it always looks like, whatever, forget that game, we can win the next one. So I also think Perkz has like the winner's mindset in that sense. Like, until you actually beat him, he doesn't give up the hope that it's possible to win the game still. Like, I believe he's one of the few players who for real thinks he could actually outperform BDD in this matchup, no matter what the scrim results say. And then I'll throw in as well, the reason why this opponent is ideal, which is mad that as a second place team, you could get a team that you have a chance to beat as a Westerner. But this is why it's so brutal for Mad Lions that they didn't get this opponent. Because Gen.G, unlike Damwon, when I was saying earlier about how in all these games, it always feels like the game's alive in the mid-game still. It's still possible. Mate, Gen.G lets fucking teams hang around. Like, that Team Liquid game they had in the first round robin, like, that game should have been over. All they had to do literally was pushing all the lanes, and like Team Liquid just has to literally sit wave clearing. But instead they went for like a mad tower dive that they sort of semi-scoffed, and then suddenly the game was alive for like 15 minutes more. So if Gen.G literally allows games like that to just hang around, someone like Perkz is primed to go, right, I can see where's this game can be won. Because there's another thing, I did a video of this in the off-season, where I separated players into 2 camps. There's players who are good at League of Legends, the game, in their role. So, for example, you might have a top laner. Alfari's probably the best example of this. If the game was only laning phase, dude, he might be one of the best players in the entire world. Like, he is unbelievably good. The problem is this, because he hasn't been on many winning teams, sometimes, I wouldn't say he actually was that bad, but sometimes I've seen games where it looked like he didn't really know what to do when he got out of lane. Like, how do I actually win this game in a pro match? The difference with Perkz is the other way around. He could have a dog shit laning phase, but as long as he gets a specific item and at a specific point in the game, it's like he can still see what the window is. Like, oh, that's where we could win the game, right? I've got to do that. And that might be something ridiculous, like some mad base race, or I've got to do a crazy TP flank behind them, whatever it might be. Like, that's a mad win condition to have. Like, there's someone who really does envision how you win the game still. Who is anyone actually taking Cloud9 to win the series, though? Are they still the underdog, Foxdrop?
Yeah, that's still an underdog for sure. I'd say they're underdog, yeah.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.